And Top Story is always brought to you by Vodafone. Labor unions are once again tonight beating war drums, warning government not to dare touch their pension funds. Led by the Trades Union Congress, leaders of the unions have held an emergency meeting and have resolved to vehemently resist what they believe to be an attempt by government to include them once again in the debt exchange program after they were exempted in December last year. Now, Labour appears to have been further angered by a confirmation today on the Super Morning Show by the Deputy Finance Minister, John Kuma, that they may be included following further engagements. Listen.
Government initially announced that we were including pension funds and all the corporate institutions. Of course, there has been a lot of dialogue and engagement with workers and unions, and the agreement was that we should take them out and agree on a different arrangement. That has been done. I think on 22nd, government signed an MOU with them where we agreed to exempt them from the announcement we made earlier.
Sure.
But as we speak, there has been engagement on what are the possible options that can be created for them. So in the end, we are also going to create a new bond system for those ones with their consent.
Would it come with different coupons to what they currently have?
It's not been concluded yet, so I don't want to go into details.
So there's a possibility that
it can be maintained. The same coupon may be maintained. It can be reduced, depending on the arrangement. But whatever I'm saying is that they are still being engaged on details. Okay. So let's not go there.
Yeah, but what we don't want to go into the details. Let me just get some clarification.
Okay.
These persons have been communicated to an MOU signed. You are exempted from the domestic debt exchange.
As announced. And then we both agree to engage on the way forward.
But when you said they have been exempted from it as announced, the understanding you get is we're not part of it.
Oh, that's your understanding.
Per the terms you announced?
The earlier announcement, yes.
You're suggesting to us that they could be included with different terms.
Yes, as we are engaging.
Today, organized labor called an emergency meeting of leaders of the many, workers' unions, and they took some firm decisions with a warning to government. My colleague Kojo Breaks joins me right now in the studio with more on this. Kojo, they made reference to a December 2022 memorandum. What does that say?
Now, you remember that at that particular meeting, the finance minister's statement that was read there said categorically that government has decided to grant exemption to all pension funds in the DDE program. That's what it said. Now, so they're also saying that organized labor reiterates that this position is final. And as far as involvement of pension funds in the DDEP is concerned, by this, organized labor and all our pension schemes are not participating in the DDE program as per the aforementioned exemption from government.
I see. We just heard the Deputy Finance Minister when he was asked directly, are you saying that they maybe, he said yes as per the engagements. They have a response to that because this answer he gave is on the back of the statement yesterday from the Finance Ministry offering different terms where they also say that they are seeking to engage with the pension funds and organized labor. There was clarity that the part of the agreement, part of the engagement may lead to them being included. What is labor saying about that?
Organized labor is still referring to that particular exemption government, that statement government made that we are exempting all pensions, and they say that contrary to communication opposition to that particular one earlier communicated is alien to them, and therefore this new position that government is bringing should be dismissed by all well-meaning Ghanaians. They are saying that any attempt to go contrary to that particular agreement will be fiercely resisted by organized labor.
Okay. So that's the organized labor position on this, and they did that meeting today. One of the leaders who attended is the president of the National Association of Graduate Teachers, Angel Kabonu, of course, who was today on the morning show expressing their anger at what had been stated. Thank you very much, Mr. Kabonu, for your time.
Thank you very much, Ivan.
So this statement is clear that you intend to resist, but that MOU, the second point in that MOU after the first said you exempted. The second, however, said there will be further engagement.
Yeah, further engagement does not mean that you nullify the first point. Don't forget, Labour is a player in the body politic of our country. We engage in a lot of activities. We engage government on a lot of issues. Don't forget that we even call on government to downsize itself. Government to stop certain highfalutin expenditure. Government should cancel some of its social intervention program. Government should behave as if in reality that they are in financial crisis. So that engagement or those positions we have made to government, it doesn't mean that making those positions we have seated on the ground on the agreement that we've had with government. No.
So this particular issue that had come up, if you listen to John Kumar today on the morning show when he was asked that question, so are you looking in these engagements that you concede was part of the MOU to include them? He said yes. Was that your understanding of that second point in that MOU sign?
That is why we've issued a press release today to reiterate our position that our position is not shifted from the pre-December position, and that you cannot pass through the back door and introduce things that will eventually mean that people's pension funds have been compromised. Let me ask the question. In all the economic strategies to solve our problem, do we think as a country that the debt exchange program is the only way? Those questions, I expect people to ask government, and I expect economists of to respond to all of us that the decision of government to opt for a debt exchange program with all its ramifications, are we saying that that is the best approach or that is the only approach? Because the consequences are far-reaching and dire to the future movement of progress of our country. As we speak, the safest platform of investment of the people of this country, where people can be guaranteed security on their investment, is investment in the bosom of their own government. And if their own government is reneging on agreements it has had with its own people, for example, the Dachi bonds, the Osla bonds, these are bonds attached to economic activity. And as I speak to you today, petroleum prices have gone up to 15 Ghana cedis per litre. It means that returns on that bond is automatically gone up. And we say we cannot pay the people who have opted to do the fundamental finances of that bond. I cannot believe my eyes. Our position is clear that we have had an agreement with government that do not touch pension funds, and we should not touch pension funds.
Let me ask you for clarity. Today, John Kumar was asked a question on this, and he says, post that MOU, there have been further engagements. Has there been engagement post that with government?
There are further engagements to the extent that government wants to find how Labour can contribute towards finding solution to the problem that government itself is brought us into. And Labour is given its position. Labour is asking them to downsize government drastically. Look, yesterday I was listening to one NPP man who wants to be president, a name I don't want to mention. He said, why should there be a separation between the Ministry of Education, and the Ministry of what? Sports. Where sports, the last time sports brought us any significant laurels in this country, we can all not remember. Why don't we merge the Ministry of Defense and the Ministry of Interior, since they are all looking at the security of our country? And I can go on and on and on and on. So Labour makes suggestions. It doesn't mean that in engaging government, Labour is giving up the turf in the area of our pension fund. No.
Talking about engagement, though, yesterday I interacted with Thomas Kwesieso, who is the executive secretary of the corporate trustees, and they represent the pension funds. They hold your pensions. He made the point that, as far as they are concerned, they are willing to sit with the government and engage around the debt exchange program, but on a specific aspect of it. I want you to listen to how he put it and give me your reaction to it.
We could be holding the bonds in our hands, but even though we be exempted, it will not become just a paper in our hands. And therefore, that is the solutions that organized labor with the pensions chamber are trying to find with the government of, the Ministry of Finance. Remember that when this debt exchange program ends, in the form that have been proposed by government, the new bonds, or that we are calling the current bonds that will be issued, the 12 bonds, they are those that will be more active and traded on the secondary market. Now, what happens to the bonds that we are holding? So that is the solutions we are trying to find with government, so that those bonds doesn't become illiquid or just a paper in our hands, and then those bonds also doesn't become untradable on the stock market. So that is the solution organized labor plus the pensions chamber are trying to find with the Ministry of Finance.
Mr. Kabono, that's why your pension funds will be engaging the government.
Well, today, organized labor issued a statement, and the statement is very emphatic. I have bought bonds from government with certain terms. Government have no option that when the bonds mature, they pay.
Well, but the pension fund, remember that the corporate trustees, they hold your funds. They want to...
Yeah, but the corporate trustees hold the fund in trust for me. The money does not belong to them. We have owners of the money.
So they manage the funds for you.
And in any case, the corporate trustees, I can say, are our employees. They don't direct us, or they don't dictate to us.
Yeah, but you trust them to prudently manage your funds, and they're telling you one of the things they want to do for you is to engage government to get some guarantees about how they will treat the bonds, the old bonds they are holding in your name.
They should be engaging me, and I will be engaging government.
Have you told them this?
They know that.
Well, if what we just heard is anything to go by, it doesn't appear so.
Even there are people who want to speak so as not to offend people. There are people who want to deodorize words so as to stand neutral. But the crux of the matter is that labor is not going to cede ground as far as our pension funds are concerned.
So this meeting today, post that, have you had any further and direct engagement with government at all? Has this memo gone back?
No.
So this is, for you, the matter is closed. You don't want to have any other engagements?
No, the moment you go to sit with government and have further discussions on this issue, it means that you are engaging in an exercise that will render fruitless what you have agreed with government in the past.
But government says they want to engage you. The trustee says, yeah, they want to engage as well. But you say no.
Labour engages government on variety of issues. The engagement with government, with labor, did not start today, and it will not stop today. But even, are you not getting interested in the point where the engagement itself is coming post facto a decision, where government takes a decision about debt exchange, there is opposition through it, government shifts the date and says it's engaging, there is another opposition, government shift. We are getting to the fourth or fifth shifting of dates. It tells you that this thing itself was not properly thought through. Proper engagement was not had. The approach of government itself was, government itself is not sure that this thing is even going to satisfy the objective for which we've introduced it. At the end of the day, are we not engaging in something that will end up just dissipating our investment, and we will not even get the outcomes that we desire? Because every time here and then there's a shift of a date, government is not even sure in the steps it is taking.
Thank you very much, Anjo Kabonu.
Thank you.
And that's the president of the Graduate Teachers Association of Ghana. Well, today we're also learning from pensioners who are holding on to government bonds, individual pensioners holding on to government bonds. They've said, I've noticed that they will be hitting the streets in 5 days if government does not exempt them from the domestic debt exchange program. Listen to Dr. Eduana Nientri, who has been detailing a series of steps they are willing to take beginning immediately to force government to comply.
Well, we haven't stopped our engagements. We will still go on with our engagements. We've done that with President before. We are hoping to meet the Chief of Staff. They called me yesterday that they have received a letter and they were planning to meet us. Yesterday we met the Chairman of the Council of State. We are hoping to meet the former President Mahama when he gets back to town. We were told he wasn't in town. So we will continue with our engagements. And then when it comes to the time that we have to physically also go to the ministry to press home our demand, we have already informed the police that from Monday on the 6th, if we haven't had any positive feedback, we'll be converging at the ministry, the old ladies and the old men, and they'll go there with their wheelchairs, sit there for about 1 hour. And we are going to continue to do that every day, the working day, until our exemption is granted. So we have a plan.
Thankfully, Dr. Eduana Nientri joins us on the telephone line right now. Doc, thanks for your time here on Top Story.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes, in that clip there, you detailed a series of actions, including the Chief of Staff meeting the former president. Have you met the Chief of Staff yet, or the former president?
No, we haven't received further communication from them after they have called evening of Monday to acknowledge the receipt of the letter requesting for the meeting.
You also indicated, what about the former president, John Mahama?
We haven't also received any communication from the office. We were told he wasn't in town at the time we sent the letter. We may have to check up from them and see whether if it's coming.
You also wrote to the police, correct?
Yes.
Have they responded to you?
So the police, I don't think they would normally respond. It's notification, so
I mean,
once we have notified them and they have received it, we think it's good. That's what we should do.
Ultimately, what you want is exemption, and if the finance ministry grants you that, then all this ends.
Yes,
since yesterday, I wonder, have you heard anything directly from the finance ministry, invitation to come and talk?
No, apart from that has been put on the table for everybody through the announcement that was made yesterday.
That is the 15% coupon and maximum maturation of 5 years.
Yes.
You still say that offer is not good enough?
Yeah, I've said that the whole package is better than the previous one. Everybody knows that. But we have maintained that for the pensioners, they have a peculiar need. And so whatever they are enjoying now, we should let it remain intact and let them have their own, give them the exemption so that they can continue to enjoy what they are enjoying. Having planned that for their lives, including buying medicine. If you reduce any coupons that they are earning now, it would affect them adversely. And they don't have any other means of working to top up. And that's why we want the exemption from the scheme.
And this demonstration, you indicate that you will be sending the old men and women, some of them in wheelchairs, to the finance ministry to picket.
Yes, those who can stand, they have to bring their own chairs and sit on it. But we believe we'll get people who will be there. We are not going to worry the very weak ones unless they themselves want to come. Otherwise, we say if you are very weak and sick, rest. Those who can go and do it. It's just 1 hour per day until the exemption is granted.
This will be on the 6th of February.
Yes,
and
Monday.
And that's a day before the deadline.
Yes.
Isn't it too close?
We sent the letter even before the extension was given.
Dr. Duanan Nenchu, thank you very much. He leads the pensioners holding on to bonds, individual pensioners holding on to government bonds, detailing their desire to go ahead with protests to get government to exempt them completely from the debt exchange program. Well, government had said that they were looking to get up to 80% subscription to make the domestic debt exchange program successful. Without hitting that mark, that won't succeed. So what's the percentage in terms of subscriptions they've had so far from a combination of banks, insurers, the securities, individuals, and the whole package of both institutions and individuals hold on to government bonds? Well, John Kumar explained and gave this update on the Super Morning Show this morning.
At the end of the day, we are all seeking to build a system that preserves our investments and also give government capacity to honor these coupons.
You talked about wanting about 80% signing onto the domestic debt exchange program.
Yes.
What percentage are signed currently?
Well, with all the consent and agreements that we're having, we should be between 80 to 90.
So why do you still want to add others when you needed 80? You have 80 now. Individual bondholders are saying, well, we have a problem.
Yes, we don't have a difficulty.
The pension funds, which you exempted, for instance, minus the pension funds, you have between 80 to 90. Why do you want to engage them again?
So that is the problem you create on the market. If you have 90% of the market trading in new bonds, and you are holding on to 10% of the market in old bonds, you have significantly reduced the value of your bonds by 90% in terms of tradability and market.
And there's a fundamental question many had asked, which is if you decide not to sign on to the new bonds per the offer yesterday, what will happen to your old bonds? Will government honor its obligations to you, paying your coupons and your principal when it matures? John Kumar has this to say.
Individual bondholders have been given the option. Please, you can stay out and keep to your old bonds. The government has promised to honor the bonds as and when they are due.
He says, however, that the only challenge will be your ability to trade with these bonds once the new bonds are accepted and they come into play.
The advantage for taking these new bonds is that in case of future liquidity challenge, you are still able to trade your new bonds and get the value of your bond. rather than, okay, so let me advise those who want to just hold to the old bond, if that is what they prefer, is that you have to hold on till end of maturity. So if your bond will end in 2027, please, no matter your situation, don't try to sell it.
Why shouldn't you try to sell it?
Because there will be no market for the old bonds. We are transitioning all the bonds to the new ones. The individual pensioners, I mean, I think that they are above the 60 years. So obviously they will fall within the individual bondholders who are above 60 years.
Yeah.
They are being offered 15% coupon per annum, and then 5 years of maturity, not 15 years. Now, I also encourage them to also join the new bonds market, because if you don't join the new market and there is no available options of trade for your old bonds, you just disadvantage yourself unnecessarily.
Well, Senor Hosi, who is a convener of the Individual Bondholders Forum, corrects that point. He makes the point that the bonds will still be tradable even if you decide not to sign on to the new bonds.
They should stop selling fear and look at the techniques. If they don't know, ask. We will advise. There are all kinds of nice ways to package this communication. But to try and bully people into suppression, into submission, it's immoral. And we don't expect that of our leaders. But remember that everybody who is now being muscled into opting in are given certain cushioning or safety net. Their provisions, their regulators are giving them. What cushion are we giving individuals? Involving individuals is economically not prudent, socially unwise, politically, I can't even make sense out of it.
And that's Senor Hosi, convener of the Individual Bondholders Forum. More on this on Newsnight in a minute.